Welcome to the most listened to golf in the world, the Fairways of Life show, on air, online, and around the world, with the most candid interviews, unforgettable stories, taking you beyond the ropes. Here's your host, New York Times best-selling author, Matt Adams.
Welcome into the Fairways of Life show, folks. Pleasure to have your company. We are here with you. The hurricane, it was Hurricane Milton that came through, ripped through Tampa, and then right through Orlando. The eye came almost right over the top of us. And, where we live, there was, everyone losing power and doing all that stuff. The thing that was scary about this one in particular, I mean, hurricanes are scary, right? We've been seeing it for the last couple that came through and the damage that they've done, particularly with Helene up in North Carolina and of course, what this one did, ravaging different parts of Florida before it headed out to the Atlantic and made its welcome exit. These hurricanes, amongst other things, can, the flooding, it's all this post stuff, right, that is so dangerous and volatile and scary. But this one put off a bunch of tornadoes. There was over 120-something tornadoes. It was the most, I just saw it recently, I just saw the stat. It was the most that they've had in the state of Florida ever in one day, and it was the second most ever recorded anywhere. I don't know who was first. I know Oklahoma gets a lot of tornadoes and all that stuff. I don't know if they were number one or not. But it was the second most ever, and it was the most in one day in Florida ever, that much that they've recorded. So, we were here for the thing, tied everything down, put everything away as best you could, and you're listening to forecasts where you're going to get speeds upwards to, 115 miles an hour is what they were saying for us because we're slightly inland, as you know. So what my wife did was they said, you got to go to a place where there's no windows, and so we had a closet downstairs where she emptied out all the jackets and everything and made a makeshift bed, and that's where we stayed for the hurricane. And she put this out on social media on her Meta, Facebook, whatever account, and that was our cat. That's Cash, the kitty in the middle, who couldn't have been happier to have us. He likes to take refuge in that closet anyway. And here we were sleeping in there with him. Look how happy that kitty is. So all is okay on our part. I know that's not the case for everybody, but as you know, our thoughts are with all those people that have been impacted. I know many of you are getting engaged in, donating clothing, food, money to the different organizations, etc. I think all of that is great. That's part of what makes us all, I think, collectively great because we reach out and help people. Dom, I know it hit North Carolina where you are pretty hard. Yours was the other hurricane. You were Helene. Ours was Milton, the most recent one, although Helene hit us very, very hard too, especially along the western coastline of Florida. What are you hearing up there in North Carolina in terms of the response from people? I guess even you guys put together a bunch of clothes and gave away a bunch of stuff too, right?
We did, yeah. Helene did hit western North Carolina very, very hard, the mountain area in the Smoky Mountains. That was devastating to that area. That's still in massive recovery mode, and there has been a huge effort across the whole state to support however possible, whether that's giving clothes, just truckloads of water, whatever we can do to help a little bit. A lot of them have had, obviously they're displaced from their homes. There's a lot of issues and infrastructure problems, and a lot of places don't have power, don't have sewer, et cetera, et cetera. So everyone's working very hard to try and mitigate the issues that were impacted by Helene. Obviously, down where you are, same type thing along the western side of Florida, the Tampa area, and so on. Those areas got hit pretty hard, and I know everyone's trying to do their best to support their friends and family, and in some cases, even people we don't know. Just help any way we can.
Yeah, that's for sure. And thank you to everybody for helping in any way that you possibly can, and why not? For people that are in need from these horrific storms that have impacted the United States. Now, we are, I hope, a welcome diversion for you from all of that, because our job is to sit here and talk about golf, but there's so much going on right now in the world of sport, isn't there? There's, you have college football, you've got the NFL going on, you've got baseball playoffs that are underway, you got hoops, you got all kinds of different things, the Premier League. in full throes. So one of the things that people that love the game of golf obviously look forward to is the Ryder Cup. So recently the captains got together, had a press conference, met with the media about what they're planning on doing with their respective teams, qualifying, et cetera. I'll get into that in a second. But first, here are the captains in the form of Luke Donald and Keegan Bradley, respectively, on being the Ryder Cup captain.
I've said it many times that moment when we won in Rome was the best and the highlight of my career. And to hear those 12 guys shout 2 more years was certainly for me a personal moment of joy and honor that they would want me to come back and represent them again as captain. So I'm very excited about the opportunity to be here in New York, and I can't wait for it to all kick off in just under a year's time.
I have to pinch myself a lot, and this stretch of my life has been really incredible, and it's an honor of a lifetime for me to lead this U.S. team here at Bethpage Black. It was a dream to play in another President's Cup, another team event, and to win the point made it even more special. But this is a dream come true for me. I love Bethpage, I love New York, and like I said, it's an honor of a lifetime.
All right, so you could see on your television screens now, to my right, these are the details of this Ryder Cup. For those of you who may not already be aware, I suspect you're going to be very happy that it's at Bethpage Black. Kind of, it's being positioned, and I know people from New York feel this way, it's America's course. It's a public golf. It's part of the municipal system of New York. It's one of the greatest golf courses in the country and the world. Why not? September 22nd to the 28th is the week of 2025, Bethpage Black course. It's in Farmingdale, New York on Long Island. Of course, the captains, respectively, as you just saw and heard, the United States, is Keegan Bradley, which shocked a lot of people, and Luke Donald, who you heard him talking about the players themselves, wanted him back again, and why not with the job that he did last time in Rome. So if there's anything to take away from this that I think causes one to think, pause, it's about the qualification process, particularly on the U.S. side. We already know what's going on the European side. I'm happy to get into that in detail, too, if you want me to. But on the U.S. side, I want to talk to you about what we've seen and what we've heard, and does it represent something different? Did it start to go that direction? Have they pulled back? We'll get into that in just a moment. First of all, let's hear from the captains themselves on that.
It's slightly different. Same 6 automatic qualifiers. We've streamlined that into one list now instead of 2 that it was previously. I think it makes it a little more simpler for the fans and the viewers to understand. And we made a few changes just to because of the changing landscape in golf, and we wanted to create something that we thought would give us the strongest 6. And then we have obviously 6 picks like we did last time, and to round out our team. And I think it's a great qualification system to give us the best and strongest field we possibly can get for this Ryder Cup.
No, we're going to keep it the same. I think the point system does a great job in identifying the 12 best players. We play our elevated events and our majors, carry so much weight, and I think that's important with how strong the fields are. Week to week, the pressure of playing in these big tournaments and these majors, and that shows up on the points list.
The DP World Tour's policies have been very consistent. There's been a lot of clarity around that. It's really the same as it was in Rome. You have to be a member of the European Tour or born in Europe, and if you fulfill the regulations and the rules that the DP World Tour set, then you're eligible. So there's a bunch of LIV guys that play on LIV that they're eligible now, so I can pick them at will. Oh, I've spoken to John. I've spoken to everyone that is a possibility for being on that team. It was great to see John, do what he needed to do to remain eligible. To see him nearly win in Spain last week. He played not last week, a couple of weeks ago. He played very well at the Dunhill. We're in constant communication. Again, I'm talking to all the players, to him, to Tyrrell. It was great to see Tyrrell win last week at the Dunhill. So, again, good communication between myself and all these players is vital, and I've certainly been keeping up with that.
Sergio has talked before about rejoining. Do you think that is a serious option?
Yeah, we chatted on the phone a couple of weeks ago. He's certainly very interested in doing that. He understands, everything that's involved. And again, the decision has to go to him whether he's prepared to do all that. But certainly, we've had that discussion. Yes.
I'm going to take the 12 best players. So if we feel like there's a few guys there, one guy, two guys, whatever it is, then we're going to do that. But we're too far out to figure out how this is all going to play out. But we're definitely going to take the 12 best players, however that shakes out.
Okay, so it's really interesting to try to sort through what the captains were just saying there. This was a statement from the PGA of America. Remember, this statement came out prior to the press conference to ensure the PGA Championship will continue to deliver the strongest field in golf and that the U.S. Ryder Cup team will continue to have access to the best American players. The PGA of America board has determined that LIV golf players will be eligible for both. Going forward, all LIV players are eligible for the PGA Championship, and any American player who qualifies for the Ryder Cup on points or is added to the U.S. team as a captain's pick is eligible to compete. This is consistent with LIV golf players competing in the PGA Championship the past 2 years. Brooks Koepka was a member of the U.S. Ryder Cup team last year. That from the PGA of America. Now let's take a look at the eligibility to get on the team. This is now through this press conference that this applies. 6 players will qualify in points and 6 captain's picks. 2024 majors, 1 point for every $1,000 earned. 2024 players, 1 point for every $1,000 earned. 2025, that's the year of the actual Ryder Cup. 1 point per $1,000 for PGA Tour events. 2025 majors, 1.5. So you get a 50% bump per 1,000. No points for the opposite field events on the PGA Tour. Points ranking does not guarantee qualification for the Ryder Cup, must separately meet all eligibility requirements. That, to me, is the sting in the tail. I don't know fully what that means yet. Do you? Go try to do some research and find out what all the eligibility requirements actually are. I'm serious. Right? So what I am encouraged by is this. Keegan Bradley said, I want the 12 best players. So he's seeing and hearing all that and going, all right, if you're not going to set up a vehicle where LIV players gain some kind of points towards that ranking system that you can check in the month of March, for example, I'm going to make sure that when it's my time to pick, I'm going to pick the best players to get on my team, right? And for Luke's side, the European Tour did it differently. They said, if you participate in LIV and you were a member of the European Tour, you are a member of the European Tour if you pay the penalties for competing in an event in which you didn't get a release. It's a lot of money. But there's a lot of players that have done it. Therefore, they are eligible for the Ryder Cup. John Rahm has said he doesn't want to pay those, but he applied and said, all right, I want you guys to take another look at this. So while that's pending, after they go through that whole process, he can continue to compete in European Tour events, get his 4 events so he has the minimum. Then he can see what they ultimately decide to do. A lot of complications. How will it play itself out? Back with more on the Fairways of Life show after this. And as we continue, we're going to meet with some friends that I think can have you set up for your best golf ever. We'll tell you why after this. Stay with us.
I got ball fit in 2000, went on a little run. Then Bridgestone fit me again, and I went on another run. I just got fit again for the new Tour BX. The ball fitting's been helping me. Will it help you?
PGA Tour Superstore pros aren't born. They're made. Every January, hundreds of associates talk to the top manufacturers, learn about the latest clubs, test the newest equipment, log thousands of hours of training, and together, hit over 100,000 balls. all so they can get you the perfect fit.
I think when you're training for other sports, or why most people go to the gym is so that they can have muscles and be strong and be healthy. And a lot of the reason why they struggle to play golf is their body doesn't move properly for them to be able to hit a golf ball. And when you're training for golf, it's a little bit different because you're focused more on flexibility and mobility and being strong in motion. When you're able to kind of have a warm up and have a workout routine and kind of gradually build up to where you're training your body to move properly, yeah, you're going to get a lot of big dividends on the golf course.
Our journey began with a simple yet powerful vision to provide the world with the highest quality Virginia-type peanuts. The Hubbard Peanut Company, where quality and tradition meet to create an unforgettable experience. Visit hubspeanuts.com to explore our full range of products and place your order today.
Super easy to hit. Introducing the new PXG Black Ops irons, our first game improvement iron.
It's a larger face heel to toe.
It launches the ball high in the air and really far.
Much higher levels of forgiveness. You set that club down, it creates a lot of confidence. It's supported by this X-Core column material.
And that's where you get improved ball speed. If you're looking for a distance, forgiveness, and feel, Black Ops iron is going to be for you.
PXG, nobody makes golf clubs the way we do, period.
Stride by Zero Friction, the first of its kind personal caddy. Walk in comfort and style with Stride's remote and follow me technology. The Stride handles almost any terrain, and its 54-hole range will last all day. The lightweight design and removable front wheels makes it simple to handle. Plus, it easily fits golf carts. Pick up your Stride today at a local PGA Tour Superstore near you or at zerofriction.com/Stride. Stride, your personal caddy.
Welcome back to Fairways of Life Show. Pleasure to have your company on this Monday. I hope we're done with all these storms. I hope it's just finished. All the madness. I know there's a big cold front coming down through the southeast over this next week that's supposed to push any possibilities aside. It's insane. So, Dom, I should have asked you earlier, did you do a question of the day, and are you hearing anything back from the people? I mean, the question that I have, if you're asking me, from the start of this whole thing, you already know, I hate the phrase golf's ecosystem. To me, that's just code for we're not going to change the way the structure is because we don't want to let anybody else in. So you find kind of a corporate-y sounding phrase that makes it sound like, well, it's the ecosystem, and if you introduce a new bug to the ecosystem, it might eat up the other bugs that are already there, and it's going to throw off your whole ecosystem, right? To me, it just sounds like fence building. And initially, when the PGA Tour took a posture that if you go to live, you're off the PGA Tour, and you'll be off the PGA Tour forever. And it was more than a veiled threat. It was openly stated that the anticipation was because of golf's ecosystem that you would not be able to compete in the major championships. And then ancillary to those major championships, it included the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup. Now, the President's Cup, although I'm not crazy about, it's an international competition against the rest of the world, the international team. I'm not crazy about not having All-American players representing the United States when they play against another entity, in this case, the internationals, except that I do know, in terms of the business side, the President's Cup is actually the property of the PGA Tour. Okay, so I get that they're like, no, the only ones we're going to allow in this team are members of the PGA Tour. Like it or dislike it, I get that it's their bat and their ball. The Ryder Cup isn't. The Ryder Cup belongs to the PGA of America. And if you go back through the history of how it happened and why, the PGA of America from 1916 was it. They were the organization that represented professional golfers. It just so happens that 99% at that time, 100%, other than maybe Walter Hagen and Gene Sarazen, were working in clubs, right? They were repairing clubs. They were fixing the spikes on your shoes. They were, in many cases, making sure the golf courses were properly maintained, etc. They had the vast role, a very important role they do today. Late 1960s, players had a revolution. Again, it's terminology the golf industry doesn't like people to use because everything's supposed to be copacetic and all the rest, but it was a revolution. And it was led by the likes of Jack Nicklaus, who said, you know, this tournament players division that you have as part of the PGA of America is really not working for us. Jack Nicklaus, by the time he played in his first Ryder Cup in 1969, was already a multiple time, over multiple years major champion. But they had this rule in there about basically an apprentice rule, if you will, my terminology, not theirs, in terms of how many years you had to go before you were eligible, all kinds of stuff like that. And for all those reasons, the tour players were like, well, wait a minute, who even owns the events that we play in? I know we get a check, but who owns them? Well, by and large, that was all controlled by the promoters of these individual events, right? And the tour players were like, what do we really have? What can we really grasp onto and wrap our arms around that's ours? And so the PGA of America initially fought them. They didn't want them to break away. I mean, the PGA of America already had the PGA Championship, a major, and they had this thing called the Ryder Cup that was growing into popularity. It was nowhere near the heights of what it is today. And so they fought them. And it's hard to fight when, I want to call them employees, but I'll at least call them your golfers. When your golfers are like, we don't want to play under your banner anymore. We want to be independent. We want our own thing. So ultimately, the PGA of America and these tour players went, touring professionals or at least, said, okay, fine. You go your separate way, but we're keeping the PGA Championship, and we're keeping our half of the Ryder Cup. Bye. Players establish a PGA Tour. Dean Beeman becomes, officially the second commissioner of the PGA Tour. He becomes the George Washington of the PGA Tour. He conceives concepts that no one had conceived before in terms of corporate structure, in terms of programs like their pension program, their all these benefits that the players now have, et cetera. All of that goes back to Dean Beeman. Dean Beeman was the guy who had to sit down with, he had to do it with all of them, but the stories that stand out are sitting down with the likes of Bob Hope and Bing Crosby and going, hey, you know that little event you have in Palm Springs in the winter? Bob, Bing, you know that little event you have up at Pebble Beach in February? Yeah, that's no longer your event. That's the tour's event. You stay involved how you stay involved. We'll work all that out. But in terms of ownership and sponsorships and all the rest, none of that works. That show doesn't go on unless you have the stars on the stage, and we're the stars on the stage. So he did all that. Right? He established aside from the fact that he conceived, had built, he should be listed as one of the designers because of how intensely he was involved with TPC Sawgrass, the stadium course, and the players. So that's how it became separated, right? That's why when I was giving you example to say, no, the President's Cup is the PGA Tours. Like it or not, better or worse, the President's Cup is a PGA Tours. The Ryder Cup isn't. So when Keegan Bradley was named as captain, which is, from what I'm seeing behind the scenes stuff, is being credited to Seth Waugh, who ran Bank of America forever, huge business executive, comes in and says, I'm going to give you 5 years to the PGA of America as your CEO, and did a brilliant job doing it. From what I'm hearing, it was him that said, hey, how about we try something different here? Instead of going with formula, instead of going with what some people were starting to call kind of an old boys club, he based it solely, as far as we could tell, on heart and passion. So Keegan Bradley gets named as a captain. Keegan Bradley has his initial press conference. Keegan Bradley is going to be asked the same questions that you can imagine everyone in that position is going to be asked during this era. And that question is, what are you going to do about the guys that are not on the PGA Tour? And he said, I'm going to have the 12 best Americans on my team. And everyone's like, okay, was that an indication? And then right after he had that initial press conference, the PGA of America put out that statement about eligibility and that LIV players are eligible. And everyone's like, okay, are they going to find a pathway here? Are they going to put together something that says, in order to ensure the strongest American team, and obviously all of this is in reaction to what happened last time when the Americans got crushed. And so you see this statement, you go, okay, this kind of looks to me like they're trying to find a pathway here. They're going to see if they can thread this needle. And then they have the most recent press conference that we featured, in which the criteria comes out, and the criteria is a pathway through the PGA Tour. And then it has a caveat on there about, look at the bottom one on your screen. Points ranking does not guarantee qualification for the Ryder Cup. Players must separately meet all eligibility requirements, of which, as of this, we are having difficulty finding what the details are of those eligibility requirements. Hardest target to hit is a moving one. So it seems to me like there's been some, I guess I'll use the phrase consolidation. From where we were a few weeks ago to where we are now, it seems like there's been some thinking going on behind the scenes going, oh, no, let's not go crazy here. But we still have a captain that's saying, I have half the team I can pick, and I'm going to pick what I feel are the best 12 American players. So you're looking at the current United States Ryder Cup standings right now. Xander, Scotty, Bryson, Colin, Brian, that's Brian Harmon, and Billy Horschel, number 6, current. Though if it was held today, obviously this is just a point of interest because we're so far away. There's so many points yet to be awarded. But that's how it works. And then from there that he would pick. So, Dom, I throw it back to you. What are you hearing? Are you getting anything back from people that are weighing in on this and their interpretation of the sequencing and the timing?
Yeah, I mean, the question as I posed it after listening to you talk and so on is, do you like the U.S. team's qualification process for the Ryder Cup? It works. I'd make some adjustments. Or it's a disaster. It needs a total redo. And right now, 80% are saying they'd like to make some adjustments to this point system. There is a number of people commenting about the fact that, and perhaps this is going to be news for some of you, perhaps not, at the Alfred Dunhill not too long ago, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, who is sort of at the top of the pyramid at LIV Golf and the Public Investment Fund, Saudi PIF Public Investment Fund, which funds all of that side of things, and Jay Monahan, of course, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, were there together. There's numerous pictures of them taken together.
They played together.
They played in like the Pro-Am together. There was a lot of news surrounding that. And I think what the people are saying that, which I think is fair and probably likely, is the hedging, if you will, that you're talking about could very likely just simply be a hedging because of the fact that they just want to delay making a decision of any kind. Because there seems to be a glimmer of hope, based on what I just described, that maybe there's a deal in the works. Maybe we're not as far away as we thought we were, maybe 6 months ago. Maybe something will change. Maybe in January or March, an announcement of some kind will be made. And, maybe they're not all going to be in the same sandbox, but maybe there's some friendliness going on. Maybe there's adjustments being made to allow there to be some cross-pollination of some kind. At which point, I think the eligibility requirements that you're referencing might actually shift or change slightly. And I do believe also, correct me if I'm wrong, but Keegan as the captain has the ability to make alterations if he chooses to that process, correct? I can't remember what it was, but I think it was 2 Ryder Cups ago. Someone dramatically changed the captain's picks. They're like, oh, we're doing 6, and it was 3 or something.
Yeah, well, it has a long history of the picks have changed dramatic. There was one time where the top 12 qualified. There were no picks.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is Keegan can change that, correct? Even now, can he just change it?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that and how it works politically. The captains have been the ones that have been credited with saying, no, he went to 6 picks and it was coming out of COVID and they did 6 because the points, some of the qualifications were so long ago that they wanted to make sure that they got the 6 hottest players right now. And so they kept it last time. They're keeping it this time. Maybe they're keeping it this time because of the nod to what you're talking about, where it gets them an opportunity to get the best players, even if they're not playing on the PGA Tour, potentially. But the only pause that I would have with that philosophy is if it's about a let's wait and see, then it would seem to me that this criteria process is basically doing the bidding for the tour side, the PGA Tour side, in terms of their negotiations, because the LIV side, if they want LIV players to be part of a points schedule that could potentially put them on the Ryder Cup team, they're sitting at the negotiating table going, well, if you go do a deal with us, if you guys get this done, you sign right here. If you buy this today, then we're going to figure out a way that your guys can get into the Ryder Cup too. So it seems to me that it is still a kind of a circling of the wagons. That's what I've been saying right along. It's just interesting as it goes. So 80% are saying it needs some tweaking along the way. I do think that Keegan strikes me as a personality, from what I've seen so far, that's strong enough that I do think that he could get pushed through what he needs and what he wants. Where it hits the boundary walls of the politics that are involved is what I don't know, because that's the stuff that's behind the scenes that we can't see.
Can I just make one more comment, Matt, about this?
Yeah.
I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but golf as a sport is in challenging territory right now.
No,
and
correction.
I think the Ryder Cup.
Stop. Full stop. Golf as a sport is not in challenging territory. Golf as a sport continues to boom. Golf at its highest elite level has its challenges. No, only reason I'm stopping you on it, Dom, I'm not taking you to task, because everybody makes that mistake. Everybody talks like what happens on the tour level is somehow the game. They even talk about, we want to do what's best for golf. No, you want to do what's best for you. The game of golf is doing great, thank you very much, and it has been doing great ever since we've come out of COVID, and it continues to boom. So I think that's a really important distinction to make, that the guy that's sitting at home does not need the tour and LIV to come together or not to come together for him to enjoy his golf on a Saturday afternoon. And I think that was a fundamental error. You could base that on a foundation of arrogance, if you please, that there was this belief that the way that we go, so goes the game.
No, I agree. No, it's a good catch, and that's not. And my intention was I was speaking specifically to professional golf, not to recreational golf. What you're referencing, obviously, which is doing fantastic. But professionally speaking, television ratings, so on, Live versus PGA Tour, so on. It's in a challenging spot. And I think the Ryder Cup is a galvanizing, unique, arguably one of the most popular professional golf events that we have professionally. So it's an opportunity to figure things out. And my concern is things not getting figured out by the Ryder Cup, because it's a perfect opportunity to figure it out and put everything, that, whatever it is they want to put on display.
It's not going to be done. If you listen, it's not even reading between the lines. It's just reading the lines. Where Rory has said multiple times, yeah, it's not going to be in 25. It may not even be the year after that. Right? We're actually being told by you. Now, then we see the signs of Yasser and Jay hugging at St. Andrews, right? And okay, maybe that's hopeful, but that's not what we're hearing from the people involved. They're telling us how complex these negotiations are and how much time, and they're not going to rush them. They're going to make sure that they're done correctly, which again, now in that case, that is a read between the line, which is code for this isn't going to be anytime soon. So I smell what you're cooking there and saying, yeah, it may or may not be done by the Ryder Cup, but I'm like, how? How?
Well, I just don't see. I think a path forward is very challenging because both sides. It feels like they're far apart, Matt. Because if the PGA Tour fans, not the PGA Tour, but the fans, if Live players just got access to everything, they would be livid, and vice versa. So it goes both sides are just. I feel like they're kind of far apart, and that's why I'm saying this is a chance to figure it out. Because, again, if we're speaking only professionally here, at the highest tier, as you put it, the ratings are television ratings for both sides it's strong language, but I'm not sure that tanking isn't the right word. In the last 3 or 4 years, it's just, and I don't know if it's exhaustion on the fans' parts of just being irritated and frustrated, so they're just abandoning. I don't know. But professionally, they got to figure it out, man. They've got to figure it out. They have to, and they got to do it kind of soon, kind of fast.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really interesting thought because the PGA Tour's ratings, we keep seeing it, are going down. Right? They have gone down. I wouldn't use the phraseology of tanking, but they've definitely gone down. And the simple question is, why? So much of what we talk about on here comes down to the why, right? So, like to you guys that are listening to us or watching us today, wherever you are you consuming less golf, watching, listening, or listening to the radio or watching golf? Are you doing less of it than you had before? Yes or no? And why are you doing less of it? Now, when we had David Abeleys on from TaylorMade, I had asked, if you guys remember this, I had asked David about, television rankings going down, and this goes to that whole conversation about what's happening on the 99.9% of the game and the 1% that is the highest elite tier. I said, are you concerned about it? And he was like, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he said to me, I think one of the reasons that the ratings might be going down is because people are out playing golf. Interesting philosophy. It's a very positive one. It's a very hopeful one, to put it in those terms. And personally, I hope that's what it is.
That's not what it is.
Well, what is it for you guys? What's if for any reason, if it's 5% or 10% or 20%, and varies by event or week or field, if you're watching less of golf, and this is against the real reality of this. I'm getting beyond the agendas and what happens with this. It all becomes so politically and embroiled. The ratings for LIV are not good. Full stop. They're just not good.
I have numbers for both.
Okay, now people get upset about that as though that's a judgment. One's making a judgment on LIV. I'm not making a judgment on anything. I'm just saying the ratings aren't good. The ratings on the PGA Tour have gone down for the rank and file events, even some of the majors. Dom, give me some numbers in terms of where we stand.
Well, I'll
with
give
this
you some
stuff
bad
if you can get it.
numbers. And this is complicated because you're talking about sports up against the NFL, and historically golf's ratings have always, forever, been lower in September and October, forever, because of the NFL. So that's just what's going to happen.
College football too, but yeah.
Correct. The Pro Court Championship, which I can't remember was the first or second fall series event.
It's the first.
On Sunday, their final round, 69,000 people. That was how many? That was the average number of viewers. 69,000 people watched the final round. LIV, which had their team championship, the closing event of the year, their final round, 89,000 viewers.
Right. They're both terrible.
So the two of them,
those are terrible ratings, right?
That is tanking. That is terrible across the board for everybody. I think.
Again, Dom, I don't mind what phraseology you use, but if we're going to use it, you have to back it. If it's tanking, you have to give us relative numbers. What percentage drop off are we talking about? You picked two events, right? And you picked two events that were up against the start of football. I get it. Give me something else. Give me a major.
Last year's event, I'm reading this. This is from golf.com, but for reference, last fall, same event, when Sahith Theegala won, it was 3 times that number of people. 3 times.
Fair enough. But that's still a tiny number, even 3 times 69,000. It's still tiny. What I'm saying is give me something relative. Give me something where someone would go, oh, I didn't realize that was left. Do you have major championship numbers or anything like that in your satchel?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll get you some. Hold on a second. Stand by. Right. But while I'm looking that up, one question I would have for you is it as simple as the best golfers in the world have to be playing in the same spot at the same time? If that doesn't happen, ratings are bad. Is it that simple?
It could be, but the question you asked before, I can't remember if you did this on the air or in the commercial break or whatever. I think that if I'm not mistaken, didn't you use the word fatigue? I believe that was you that used that word.
I said exhaustion.
Exhaustion. Okay, exhaustion. So the question is, are we seeing dips in consumption of golf and television or radio? Right? I'm talking about traditional use. Because when the commissioner spoke at the Tour Championship, he says, we're up in these other areas. And that's kind of the new world that we're in, right? There are other areas that you can consume. I don't know what those numbers are, and I guess they are putting stuff together on that, so when we get it, we can judge it. But in terms of traditional media, right, getting it on your television at home, through what? Your cable provider, I guess, would be the way that but I don't even think they call them cable providers anymore. I think they're called internet providers. And that's another thing I don't understand, just as an aside, when they talk about cutting the cord. How is it cutting the cord if you still get the service from the same provider? You just get it from a different method of delivery. Whatever. But the question is, if you had an event where all these big names were now back together again. Dom used as an example the Alfred Dunhill Links. There were 14 players, 14 from LIV in that field. Terrell Hatton, who won it for a record 3rd time, plays for LIV. John Rahm was there. Well, those two were there because those were the two that filed officially to say, hey, we want this reviewed, our status with the PGA Tour, etc. So while that's going on, you can continue to compete. I believe it was 10, if I'm not mistaken, was the number of sponsors exemptions. Because the guy that's behind the Alfred Dunhill Links does support, from what I understand, unification of the game, and he wanted to show this demonstrate this as an opportunity to go, look, we all can get along here. We can bring all this great field together, and these great players can play. So is it a case of simply going, all right, we're going to bring all these great players back together again, and it's going to unite the passions of the game at every level? Or is it the exhaustion, to use your word? Is it fatigue where players are going, I like to believe, which I think is what I'm about to say is naive nonetheless for all of us if we still believe this in today with professional sports, but I'd like to believe that it's not just about money. I'd like to believe that it's not just about greed and making sure that old number one is taken care of. And from everything that the public is telling us, their discontent is because they are coming to that conclusion. Now, so there's a central question. If the opportunity was such that, and we've got the Showdown coming up in Vegas. While you're looking for the other information, Andrew, did you put any information together on the Showdown? That's Rory and Scotty. He points to it and says it's right here. Tuesday, December 17th in Las Vegas. It's going to be on TNT. So I'm assuming, I don't know what that means. Are they going to do it under the lights? Tuesday in December in Las Vegas. They're 3 hours behind us, so they'll have light for a while. Against Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau. All right, that's arguably the four biggest personalities in the men's side of the game. Maybe missing John Rahm. Maybe arguments could be made, but it's just you're arguing nuance, not fact. Don't know. It's okay. These are four of, I'll put it this way so we don't offend anybody, four of the biggest. Is that going to be enough? Is that, or you look at that and it's the argument of it doesn't mean anything. It's not, they're not playing for something that means something. So that's part of the whole scenario. That's part of the gumbo. But at least we're seeing these four together. So I go back to my initial query. If the game came together, would that be enough? Or are we talking about fatigue where people are like, enough is enough is enough? I've had it with the so-called negotiations. I've had it with finding out that this group of players is now in charge on one side or the other. And their voices are the ones that have created the tour or guide the new way of thinking or whatever side you want to talk about. Don, before you give me your numbers, because I know I can see you scrolling away there like a monk. What are you hearing from the people in terms of these questions that I'm asking right now? Would they come back if there was a unification, or has there been an exhaustion factor that's impacted them?
I'll read a few comments. I watch the majors and I watch Live. I actually think Live is better TV because I can sit down and watch the event and I know I'll be able to see all of the 54 players in the event. There's numerous comments coming in talking about how I think they're saying it's a negative, but Live seems to be moving globe hopping a little bit more. So they're hitting different parts of the world with their golf and their players going to different parts of the world, whereas the PGA Tour is just very U.S. centric. Also, people are commenting a lot about how
I don't understand what that means. Is that okay? What you just stated was a fact. That wasn't an opinion.
Well, I think the claim is, like, for example, I'll read one comment because there's a few of them coming in like this, but Mark writes, Live has a worldwide audience, not just the USA. PGA Tour is just the USA. Making the claim that
I don't agree with. Live has a worldwide audience, that's fine. But the PGA Tour has a worldwide audience too. Their players come from all over the world. They just happen to play the predominance, 98% of their tour in the USA. That doesn't mean that they don't have a global audience. I mean, I hear all those arguments, but to me, that's just noise. I don't know what that means on either side. I don't know how that's for one side or against another side. The fact that Live is they're trying to build a tour to fill in holes so that people get to see the best players in the world on a global basis, that's great.
another, I want to say it's an issue. I guess it is an issue, but it's an issue that all of us are dealing with. When I say all of us, I mean everyone in the world, with the advancement of technology and how quickly that's taken place. You don't have to watch 3 hours of golf. Live, PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, you pick it, you name it. You can watch your favorite player and watch their highlights of their round within an hour after the tournament's over. And then you can literally, at this point, you can practically handpick the player that you like and watch a 5-minute highlight video of whatever it is that they did that mattered, and then move on with your life. You don't have to. You don't have to give time away of your day to watch a full anything. So I think that's a challenge for all of sport.
How
but
come
golf
that's not
in
happening
particular.
with the NFL?
The NFL is, I think, a bad example. They don't qualify for any category we're talking about. They roast everybody else in the United States, at least, across the board.
All right,
in
well then
ratings,
let's talk about fairness.
in everything.
Let's be journalists here instead
That's like
of just
Tiger.
instead
That's
of
like using
editorial.
Tiger as an example. It's just not fair. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, let me ask you this question then. Journalistically, are ratings down for sports across the board? Yes or no? And I don't care if you eliminate the NFL from that because of the qualification escape.
My opinion is not fact. My opinion is that sports ratings ebb and flow with the most popular athletes or teams in those particular sports. So, for example, Federer and Nadal are killing it. Tennis ratings go up a little bit. Caitlin Clark shows up in the WNBA. The ratings go up a little bit. Patrick Mahomes wins 50 times in a row. The ratings go up a little bit. Michael Jordan leaves the NBA. The ratings dip. And then LeBron shows up and they go up a little bit. So it's very dependent, just like we were just saying. Tiger Woods shows up, plays great in the Masters, ratings go up. Tiger Woods goes away, the ratings go down.
Dom,
so it's very
opinion,
athlete
your opinion
dependent.
is valid. I get it. Your opinion is valid. And that's true. And that makes sense. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about
You just want
the
general
natural
trends?
I'm talking about what you were just saying. Are people choosing to invest their time in other ways and places regardless of the sport? And again, I'm even conceding going, okay, you made a case that the NFL doesn't count. I don't know enough about it to judge it. So, okay, take the NFL out of there. Are sports television rating or radio, I guess, are the ratings down across the board otherwise? Are people investing time in other places?
I don't have statistics to back that up or not back that up. I don't know. I'd have to spend some time looking into it,
All right.
which I can try and do.
Did you have a chance to find numbers about golf events?
I did.
of
I have
comments?
the last, from 2010 to 2021, I have all of the ratings for all 4 majors for all of those 11 years. And then I have the ratings for the 2024 major championships.
Okay.
So there's a couple of years I couldn't find gaps-wise, but I could show you the trends. And I would say that the trends are, on the whole, probably no changes in the majors, just in general. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Well, because obviously
I get
some
it.
years,
I get
right?
it.
You know,
No, I totally
some
get it.
years
'cause
are crazy.
This is where this example goes back to what I already told you was correct, the flow and ebb, right? Where you're going to have a very popular winner of a particular or a playoff or what have you, and depending if it went into prime time or all these other different factors that impact ratings, you're going to get that flow and ebb where you can't definitively say, nope, ratings are down, and there's a trend that shows that ratings are dipping. Here, let me ask you this question, Dom. Because we're approaching the top of the hour here, and I want to get to this next segment, which I think is going to benefit a lot of people. Do you want me to table this and you and Andrew work your black magic, and tomorrow we'll pick up this conversation and we'll actually demonstrate if you think there are discernible areas that we can go to and go ratings are conclusive, because the general mentality is, and you even expressed it yourself, that you even used the word tanking. that ratings are tanking, which I've cautioned that speed. I put a speed bump on that one because I don't know whether that's fair.
Well, I wasn't referring to the major championships.
I know you weren't. I know you
yes.
weren't. I'm not saying you were. You were talking about just golf ratings. What I'm saying is, how about we bring this up tomorrow and you give us real numbers that we can actually see?
Well, what are you looking for? And I'll write down, and we can try and find some info for you.
I think a good judgment. Let's and maybe the people can weigh in on this thing too. Do you think
the majors count? Are the majors part of this conversation?
They could be and should be, except you just told us that there's really no change in the majors, so the majors seem to be insulated from impact. You're the one that has to tell us if they count. You have the numbers.
I think the majors are a bad example for professional golf. That's like basing the NBA's ratings on the finals or football's ratings on the Super Bowl. Like, these are just big events that a lot of people watch no matter what.
That's a good
now,
question.
if Tiger shows up, it goes up a little bit. If this guy does a little bit, but the Super Bowl, what?
What were the Super Bowl ratings last year? Were they up or down? Well, the NFL doesn't.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. 120 million people watch the Super Bowl every year. It doesn't matter what's going on.
So we could talk about later on if you want to. But what I'm saying is, first of all, I would put together something. Is there a way that we could compare television ratings for the PGA Tour 2024 to television ratings for the PGA Tour in 2023? Because that's what this is focused on, right? Or to 22, or to 21, or to 20. Is there a way to do that? I don't know the answer to this, Tom.
Well, not all of this stuff is super, super public, but yes, there's stuff we can do.
All right, so you're going to find some secret stuff.
Because obviously everyone's nervous about their stuff, so not every inch is going to be released.
Yeah, but if you had like your Josh Carpenter information, right? And maybe he's the one to go to kind of look at it and go, all right, we're just trying to get some guideposts here, so that we can, because from your phrase of the ratings are tanking, I don't believe they're tanking. I believe they're impacted. My question is why? And it sounds like there's more meat to this bone than we have time to go through right now. So
I agree.
Are you cool with it? All right, Tom. So he agrees.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that some more on tomorrow's show, and you guys can weigh in on that so that we can try to get a full sense of what's going on here. Maybe even Josh can join us. I don't know what his schedule is, but why don't you dial him up and see what you can find out there. You guys can't see the picture of Dom as he's shaking his head back and forth going, great, thanks. Another to-do item has been added. Yes. I'll work on it. All right. As I was mentioned to you guys, one of the things that we're excited about today and tomorrow, and especially this time of year, is it gives us a chance to catch up with talking with a lot of people and getting to a lot of comment. And obviously our shows were impacted, as were lives of millions of others, by the storms that have ripped through in the last couple of weeks. Pray that everybody is okay. But we had a chance recently to speak with Simon Millington, and Simon is the CEO of Golf Brands Inc. If you love the game of golf, if you love playing in particular the game of golf, and if you're really into equipment and the history of the game, then you are going to love, I believe, what you're about to hear. It will have a direct impact on you, and it has a direct impact on your game. And with that, when we come back, we'll be joined by Simon, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
In Ireland, golf is more than just a game. Come and experience our world-famous links courses and our world-famous parkland courses, all set alongside world-famous scenery. And visit our world-famous historic sites. And while you're here, enjoy our world-famous hospitality. Fill your heart with Ireland at ireland.com/golf.
Ben Hogan Golf Equipment is back. Established in 1953, we serve golfers who demand excellence of their equipment. Designed by the game's best engineers, forged in the world's best foundries, and built to order in the USA. Don't settle for off-the-rack disappointment. Elevate your game with custom clubs at direct-to-consumer pricing. Exclusively at benhogangolf.com. That's benhogangolf.com.
The best feeling iron I've ever hit. Introducing the new Gen 7 irons The greatest leap forward in irons technology and performance in PXG history. Our new quantum core material explodes off the face. Are you kidding me? The Gen 7 irons deliver groundbreaking new levels of forgiveness, speed, distance, and feel. That's what I'm talking about right there. Look at that trajectory. Just phenomenal. Gen 7, it doesn't get any better.
PXG, nobody makes golf clubs the way we do, period.
Baseball? Nah. Football? Done it. I think I'm going to go after PGA Tour.
Playing on the PGA Tour is not easy. But you know what is easy? Hitting the 524 series from Tour Edge.
Hitting linebackers and home runs used to be easy.
Out here, you're going to need all the easy you can get. Introducing the 524 series from Tour Edge. The easiest clubs you'll ever hit. Even the best players in the world can use a little easy.
I like the sound of that. Look out, PGA Tour.
Pound for pound, nothing comes close.
What would your ultimate golf experience be like? Just you and a friend? Or would you round up some buddies for a foursome? Just one day? Or an entire week? There's a good chance your ultimate golf experience could be Michigan's magnificent 10. 10 incredible courses set among 3 remarkable resorts. See for yourself. Book your ultimate golf experience today.
Our journey began with a simple yet powerful vision to provide the world with the highest quality Virginia-type peanuts. The Hubbard Peanut Company, where quality and tradition meet to create an unforgettable experience. Visit hubspeanuts.com to explore our full range of products and place your order today.
PGA Tour Superstore pros aren't born. They're made. Every January, hundreds of associates talk to the top manufacturers, learn about the latest clubs, test the newest equipment, log thousands of hours of training, and together hit over 100,000 balls, all so they can get you the perfect fit.
There is no shortcut in the quest for perfection. That man right there, Ben Hogan, the icon that he is, taught us that so many years ago. That's the mantra that the clubs that continue to bear his name and his unique signature, even to this day. We have long been associated with Ben Hogan Golf and very proud of our association with the same. They are pure performance. They are pure Ben Hogan. And I say it all the time when I talk to you about Ben Hogan Golf equipment. I know that every one of you would be proud to put a Ben Hogan golf club in your golf bag. Simon Millington is the CEO of Golf Brands, Inc., behind Ben Hogan's golf equipment. If you get a chance to go on to benhogangolf.com, you can see just how spectacular this equipment is. It's really amazing to me that it is every bit as much art as it is about the performance that you would expect from Ben Hogan. Simon, welcome into the Fairways of Life show. It's a pleasure to have your company. I wonder if we could start by talking about Golf Brands, Inc., that you are the CEO of. What exactly is Golf Brands, Inc.?
Sure. So Golf Brands, Inc., we're a family business. It's run by myself and my sons. And, I've been in the golf industry pretty much all my life, for about 40 years. And we essentially over the years have acquired and regenerated some of the more famous golf brands of perhaps yesteryear. So as you see on the screen there, Ben Hogan Golf, Ram, McGregor, Zebra, Teardrop, amongst others. There's some other sort of older industry brands that we picked up along the way that you'll see there. Sort of Forgan of St Andrews is the oldest golf club brand in the world. Young Gun, which is a leading junior golf brand. Caddymatic is a long-term golf trolley, golf cart company, push cart company. And really what we do is we take on these brands and we try to regenerate them back to their former glories. So we employ some of the finest club designers in the world who have worked for all the major companies. And we kind of set them a bit of a goal is, we want to be as good as anybody out there. We want to make equipment that is as good as anybody else's. And primarily our business model is direct to consumer. So the prices you will pay for our equipment tend to be less. But, one of the things we are very proud of certainly is that sort of all of our custom build orders, etc., all built in Henderson, Nevada. So, when I say proudly built in the USA, it means something with us, it really does.
Those brands that you demonstrated and you discussed are some of the biggest and frankly most important brands in the history of the sport. The number of major championships that they represent, not to mention an actual name of a legend such as Ben Hogan being amongst them. May I, Simon, ask, how has it been received that you've been able to assemble names of such distinction and bring them back out onto the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, genuinely fantastically received from professionals, amateurs, people who don't play golf anymore, have retired from playing, genuinely have a love of the brands. It took me aback, really. I mean, at the PGA show, we had numerous older golf professionals who came by and just wanted to say, I just want to shake your hand and thank you for this. This brand meant such a lot to me in my golfing life. And I love seeing it come back to its former glory. So, we really do genuinely, I know it sounds a bit trite to say so, but we genuinely take this on. And, it does make, I've been in this industry a long time and these brands were very important to me. And when you get people like that who take the time to come and thank you for doing it, we've got a big responsibility to make sure that we do bring the brands back continually and get them better and better and get them to their former glories.
It's incredible. When you decided to, using your phrasing, to bring Ben Hogan golf equipment back to its former glory, how fortunate were you along the way, Simon, that in the brand that is Ben Hogan, and we're looking at the PTX Tour irons here in our studio, they're gorgeous. How fortunate were you that this brand continued to hold such a place in the hearts and minds of golfers, that it had such equity from day one?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was very, very pleasantly surprised that, literally the day we went live back selling them, there was this instant demand, instant feedback coming back from people saying, so pleased you're back. I've just ordered the new wedges, or I've ordered this or ordered that, and some of the product, it's not new, the current range, the PTX Tour are one of the new irons, and we've got a lot coming up towards the end of the year. But, the one thing that the Ben Hogan Golf Company has maintained is this high quality forged irons. And that's certainly something that, we take very seriously, sort of Mr. Hogan's mantra about everything looking like a fine piece of jewelry. We work really hard on sort of the looks of it, but also, if you like, underneath the hood of what's, making it to become as good a golf club as anybody, if not better. And, I love putting out, we have Ian Woosnam. He's actually using those PTX Tour irons now. He put them in his bag. And, as an older player, but still a fantastic golfer and still obsessed at 66 by the game. Loves them, loves the fact he said he can work them like he hasn't been able to work and flight the ball differently that he's been looking for. So it's really nice across all of that, to get that much brand equity that you can have a Masters champion put him in his bag when it's the first time he sees them. So, it means a lot.
That is spectacular. When we're looking at these irons in particular, and the way you phrased it from Mr. Hogan's objective to make them look like a piece of jewelry, and they do. But they also have a great deal of design and engineering technology within that are going to help your game. As we're looking at on your screen right now, you can see clearly the vast majority of the weight is on the lower half of the iron, below the equator of the golf ball, which is going to help you get the golf ball airborne, etc. That, in union with the soft, buttery feel of this forged steel, there's a lot happening here. To what would you point to when you're speaking to the world and saying, no, not only are we talking about the Ben Hogan brand, not only are we talking about the beauty that is these forged clubs, but there is real technology here to help you play your best?
Well, absolutely. Looking nice is great, but they've still got to work right. So we've employed, we have two people working full time on our projects at the moment. Gavin Wallen, who was senior club designer of Adams, and then was responsible for a number of these irons from a few years back with Ben Hogan. So really understands the brand, really loves the brand, and gets what it's about, and it's beauty and tradition meeting technology, and we also have Larry Tang, who was, famous for work with Callaway and Odyssey many years, was the inventor of the white ball putter. So, we've really got the top designers working with us. So we're a small family business relatively, compared to the industry giants, but, we're pretty happy that we're punching alongside them with, you'll know from the industry is you can't make irons better than those Ben Hogans are. It just doesn't happen. There's, the best forged irons with the best technology in them, whether you're going for a simple blade with less technology, but all the way through to the PTX tools, the pros, the edges, to get a forged cavity back with that level of quality and usability for people who are, his handicap's a little bit higher. We've got everybody covered, but there isn't a better way of making better golf clubs, than a top quality forging. So.
It's tremendous, and it's very, very exciting, and it's something that if you love the game of golf, whether you're playing these clubs yet or not, you should be very, very excited about. You can log on to benhogangolf.com, and you can check out all of the offerings that Simon was just referencing there, and note that he specifically mentioned regardless of your handicap range, there is a set of clubs, irons, woods, hybrids, putters, wedges, that you need to fill a hole in your game and certainly will match your game in your respective handicap level. They will make you a better player. And as I mentioned at the start of this, I know how proud you would be to carry clubs with the Ben Hogan name in your golf bag. And Simon, before we go, you mentioned these other brands, and it blows me away because, as you probably are aware, my background, I came from the equipment manufacturing side of the business, and I used to build for many of the companies that are displayed on that screen, including Ben Hogan. It's quite remarkable. Do you want to talk to us about McGregor and Ram in particular? It was Ben Hogan, McGregor, and Ram when I met Simon and his boys. And started to talk to him about what they were doing, and it almost brought a tear to my eye to see these back in the marketplace again. But you want to talk to us about what you're doing with those other brands in particular, and how excited you are about them too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so really, what we do, I mean, with these brands, I mean, we kind of work along the premise that we like to have something for everybody. So we unashamedly with Ram and McGregor sell some box sets and package sets so that the younger golfer, be it a junior golfer or an adult or, coming into the game can get something and get back to know these brands and how good they are. And so I've always said this, we unashamedly, very proudly sell great package sets to get people started in golf. But as well as that, that was the easy bit, if you like. And then really to then start rolling out the irons from sort of game improvement, going all the way to the forged players irons across all of our brands. So we want all of our brands to have something for everybody. And whether you're a beginner or a scratch senior golfer, we want you to be able to enjoy the brands that you've loved or find a new love for these brands that you haven't come across before if you're a younger player. And we'll continue to do so.
It is absolutely fantastic with what you're doing. You and Gavin and Larry and Woozy behind it. Like I said, you mentioned your boys and your good self. Thank you, Simon, for what you guys are doing. It is important, and it does mean a lot to many, many people. I love what you're doing with the Ben Hogan name. I think it needs to be in the game of golf, and it is and does and should represent the very, very best. So for all of that, thank you very much for what you guys are doing.
No, thank you. And thank you for taking the time to have me on the show.
It's a pleasure. Folks, there's no middleman. It is directly to you. BenHoganGolf.com. Check it out today. So for all the virtues that we have discussed here with Simon about the brands that he represents and about Ben Hogan Golf in particular, you can still get the best of the best and get it at a very competitive price as well. That's a combination that pretty much doesn't exist anyplace else. BenHoganGolf.com. We'll be back with more. All right, so it was a pleasure to catch up with Simon Millington, the CEO of Golf Brands, Inc., so we can get you guys straightened out on what to do with your golf equipment. Thanks so much for your company today, folks. Be safe out there, please. We'll see you again. Bye for now.